I want to introduce Ray McCollum. He is the Policy Branch Chief for the Division of Acquisition and Cooperative Support at the National Science Foundation. And Ray and I have interacted at a couple of networking events here in the DC area. So Ray, thank you for joining me.
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me.
So for those who don't know you, please share a bit about your background, like where are you from, who you are, and what you do.
Oh, sure. So where am I from? I am from Lorain, Ohio, which is about 40 minutes west of Cleveland. Born and raised there to a single family, low income home. I was the first to go to college and first to go to the Army as well, and the first of many different things. You know, but I'm the youngest of four, so it's big for me to to do all those things because I was breaking sort of the barriers and such for at least those who were coming after me within my family. So big deal for me, and all that was provided by a program that I was a part of when I was in the sixth grade, the Young Scholars Program. And they were basically a program that focused on minorities in a low income area who don't have anyone that's gone to college or anything like that. So sort of trying to help them understand what it takes to go to college. And so from the sixth grade until I was graduated high school, every summer I got to go to the Ohio State University and walk their campus for a whole month. Just to get an idea on the feel and sort of get me ready also for, once I graduated high school to go to the Ohio State University. And you see, I'm always going to emphasize the part when I say the Ohio State University. But that was an important part of my life in terms of, making sure that I, broke the barrier of like not going to college, staying in the Ohio area after high school and all those things. So that was definitely instrumental. And then also joining the Army, that was a big deal too. Did join the Army when I was a senior in high school. And actually began as a combat medic and then switched over to logistics. Combat medic is not for me, not into the blood thing. That was like, let's get out of this. It was good. It was fun while it lasted, but logistics is where I ended up and spent most of my 10 years when I was in the Army. But yeah, undergrad at Ohio State, degree in operations management with a specialization in purchasing, and a minor in political science. And actually political science is what I wanted to do when I first went to undergrad. And then kind of like, I didn't want to do all the one thing that's tripped me up that I didn't want to do is learn foreign languages. And it was really hard in college. So you had to spend a lot of time. There's extra sessions that you had to go to. And I was like, I'm good. I'm just going to stick to minor in political science. I can still be involved at the local level, state level, which I was. So that was certainly helpful that I could still be in the field. But minor in political science, and then grad school, I also went to the George Washington University and got a degree in project management. So that's the educational and where I grew up in the synopsis of myself. I think the other thing I should probably point out is how I like to volunteer. And that's probably the space that we've met with ACT-IAC. So, I was as a part of the Partners Program in 2015. So graduated in that class. Shout out to all of those partners and fellows from that class. And then started to continue to volunteer with partners at the vice chair level for a couple of years. And then this year, I'm actually the government chair for the Partners Program. And that, I think that our year of online learning is ending soon. So, but that was certainly an experience as well. And also I've been a part of the National Contract Management Association and held a lot of positions in the DC chapter, being also the president of that chapter, which was the largest at that time. And I think it's still currently the largest chapter within NCMA. And I also participated in their professional development program, which was the Contract Management Leadership Development Program. And it's about a year-long program for mid-level people who are in government or industry that have not gone into leadership yet. And so it's a good program to help those folks with their soft skills, help them with the things that they may expect when they go into leadership. And it's not going to obviously give you everything. It can certainly tell you some things on the soft skill side, but you have all these different employees with different personalities. So it's like those things are there, but you're going to have to figure it out as well in using some of that, but also just using some common sense. And so definitely NCMA, ACT-IAC were some of the things I volunteered for. Also volunteered for Veterans of Foreign Wars,
Wow.
American Legion, because I did deploy twice with the Army, both times to Iraq for 2 years. So that was different points in my life. Sophomore, when I was in college during my sophomore year, and then again at the end of my graduation, my senior year. So that was also good experiences there. And actually, just thinking about my first job within the federal government at the General Services Administration, during my last deployment was actually when I interviewed to get into the federal government contracting space. And I was in Iraq at the time when I had applied for the Federal Career Intern Program. And I was selected to do an interview, and I had to tell them, like, well, I'm going to have to call you because you cannot call me. And they're like, why not? Well, because I'm in Iraq. I mean, I don't think you can call there, but you can try. And they're like, okay, fine, just call us. And I did call them at 3 a.m. my time. And I think it was maybe, 1 p.m. or some sort like that, the time in the US. So conducted that interview and obviously was hired into the FCIP program at GSA. So that was my start into the government space. And I ended up at GSA for about 10 years. And certainly met a lot of people within the different programs, networks, which is now the Enterprise Infrastructure Service program or vehicle. Was in that, worked in that office. Also worked at the Schedules program, did that probably for the majority of my time at GSA. Also did some time at FedSim, and then also in the Office of Government-Wide Policy. So definitely had a lot of
the big highlights.
Yes, definitely had a good time there with all the things that I was able to learn, the different people I was able to meet and learn from as well. GSA being the acquisition agency, certainly there's a lot of experts there that you can talk to, and I still, tap into those people even in my current position at NSF. But before I got to NSF, though, I did leave GSA to go to the State Department for a year, and that was a good break, I guess, kind of. Not really a break, but it was definitely different from GSA. But it was definitely, they have an interesting mission over there at the State Department, and I got a chance to see different the different things that they do. It's so, I think some people don't think State Department's that large, but it's very large. They have so many different things that they have to do over there and purchase and all those things. So I was there for a year, learned a lot, and then transitioned over to the National Science Foundation, where I'm now the policy branch within the Division of Acquisition and Cooperative Support. And that been there for about 11 months now. And that's been a great experience as well. It's back to not just doing policy, but also managing people. I think that's important for me anyways. I like to be a part of the development of, the future leaders of today, and so the future leaders that's going to come after me and, may even take my job. I want to make sure that they know what to do and what all the things that I had to go through, and, just to get to this level and what it takes to get to the next level as well. So definitely like my professional development programs. I see I'm part of a lot of them because I know how important it is for, the government and, industry everywhere else that's going to need someone to replace, someone to be leaders of their businesses.
Wow. Well, that's very impressive. I am sure your mom is proud.
Yes, I'm the baby, of course.
Well, and it was a lot of firsts, as you said, right? And
Yeah.
then getting into government and doing the things you're doing now. I mean, they're all very impressive, in the volunteering and the leading leadership development programs. Those are all things that not a lot of people, right? Not a lot of people take that opportunity to pass on things to the next, to the up and comers. And so that's really a credit to you.
Yeah. And I also, I think I was also just lucky enough to be managed by certain people that were approving me participating in these programs.
Mm.
These programs aren't free. And so, once I started in the government, I think, it's always a matter of who you fall into, who ends up being your supervisor, because they will have an effect on, your career. And so I just was lucky enough to have supervisors that were just open enough for me to be a part of these programs. Because it obviously could have went a different direction, but if you get the right supervisor, then perhaps that can certainly help you in your career. So
That's true. So is that scholarship program from sixth grade to 12th, is that still something that's in effect in Ohio?
yeah, it's still in effect in Ohio, and actually they mainly focus on the larger cities in Ohio. And when you say large, they're really not that large because it's Ohio. But yeah, Lorraine, the Clevelands, the Columbus, the Daytons, Youngstown, Akron, and Cincinnati. They focus on all of those areas, and yeah, they've still been going on until not present. And I actually am a part of that organization as well. They have the Young Scholars Program alum, and those folks are still trying to be involved with the folks that are in the program now, who are between sixth grade or in high school. So yeah, that program is still there, and it's still doing its job of making sure that the folks who live in those certain areas get an opportunity to come to campus. And when they graduate as well, they have that scholarship too, as long as they keep up their grades, while they're in college. That's definitely a big benefit too. If you can, go to college and leave there without any debt,
Right.
that's a big deal. So the Young Scholars Program is certainly helping, low income people get ahead, because they could be pushed further behind, even with, not getting a scholarship and then having to pay for it and get all that, incur all that debt. So kudos to the Young Scholars Program.
Yeah, that's amazing. It sounds like you followed a bit of both a non-traditional and a traditional route, because while you were in the scholarship program, you kind of jumped into the military in the middle of that. How did that work with your scholarship? Now, was it post-military? You were able to still take advantage of that?
So I joined the Army when I was a senior in high school, and so actually, part of the reason why I joined the Army was I was kind of a bit worried that I wouldn't be able to hold up my end of the bargain in college.
Okay.
And so the Army was a contingency plan. I mean, I thought it was a good idea to do it, but it also was a contingency plan for in case I was, failing in college, and I'm like, okay, well, I can go to the Army. I have that fallback. So, but all in all, I still could get the tuition assistance, even with the academic scholarship, because as you know, these scholarships and sometimes the tuition assistance stuff will not cover everything at once. You still need additional scholarships and everything else. So, to cover books and housing and some of those things. So, I was still able to utilize both when I was an undergrad.
Fantastic. Okay. So then, what's something that you would change about things you've learned as you've gone through this process? Right, you've been in your career for a while, between the Army and here in the government. What is something you've noticed throughout this experience that if somebody came to you, Ray, and said, "Hey, Ray, today you are in charge. You get to make the big decision, and you get to bring forth something that we should consider changing." What's that look like for you?
Yeah, so two things. So one, I think, not many people, so I think there's people who know about some of these programs that I've gone through, but they don't, may not are afforded the opportunity to participate in those programs. And, I don't have the magic wand to fix those things, but I think it's very important for, leaders, future leaders to go through some sort of programs that will help them learn outside of what they're learning at an agency. I think it does a disservice to individuals who have to basically learn by just doing the work, not learn by also participating in programs and learning what others are doing on the outside. I mean, I think that's a big deal. I think a lot of things that I've probably learned and understood was coming from some of these programs and speaking to people who are not at the same agency that I was at. I think that's so much helpful so helpful. So it was very helpful to me in terms of having people I can talk to and bounce ideas off of, reach back to even now to get information from. And there's like plenty of people that I still talk to, and I'm sure they use me for the same reason. And we're friends, yes, but they also use me for the reason of, hey, you are at the government agency. How do you guys look at so and so? And a lot of the agencies that I've also been at, we still able to tap into each other just to make sure we are sort of consistent, or there's something that maybe I didn't think of that they did that we are able to share. And I think being a part of these programs, though, certainly helps people to start networking and build their networks so that they can grow as individuals, because it's not just going to be from just doing the work sitting in front of you. And that's number one. Number two, I think something that could be improved, and I think there's certainly progress being made, but I think there's, we got some ways to go. I think seeing minorities in the senior executive service, I think there's been progress, but I think at the same time, it's still a long way to go. And I think I hope that many people aren't just hiring minorities just for the sense of saying they check the box. I think it's also the part of making sure you are preparing them to be in those positions, and not just setting them up to fail. And so, I think that's probably something that, I'm obviously looking at, just to make sure that I'm putting in the right situation, position as well. I mean, there's programs out there that prepare, again, as people who are future leaders and want to be SESs, but it's a matter of, does your senior leader want to put you in those programs?
Right.
So that's the biggest thing that I think needs to be fixed, and structurally as well. When you think about, it's not just a matter of, there's probably only so many minorities that can choose from to become senior executives, but what are you doing to build that up as well? So where are you going to recruit? How are you recruiting in the first place? I mean, those are structural changes that need to be made. I think I've seen, at least, I should say it that way, I've seen, at least when it comes to recruiting, where some of the organizations where maybe people may tap into just to try to at least find some potential recruits to join, the agencies like your National Society of Black Engineers, or any of those sort of type organizations. Those are certainly opportunities to bring in minorities into the government. So there are some agencies who are focused on joining those groups and going to their job fairs and that sort of thing. But again, like, that's probably where you should start, but not many agencies are doing it. So, there's structural changes that need to be changed when it comes to, where these job fairs are happening, what schools are they bringing into. Like, you can see a lot of by what, who's a part of these job fairs. And how these agencies are, setting up these job fairs and which job fairs they're joining. You can see if they're actually changing how they are attacking what needs to be changed. But kudos also to the agencies when it comes to creating the diversity groups within the agencies, and putting SES put them at SES levels as well, so that they are a part of the conversation. I think that's a big deal, and it's very helpful for others in the agencies to certainly learn about what's going on. So,
yeah, it's interesting. I feel very strongly in the same way you do, that it's twofold, right? It's not just hire more, it's also build them up, like provide them opportunities to explore leadership, provide them opportunities to learn from others. I'm right there with you. And you're right. It's something that every agency needs to take a look at, and some are, right. I'm in government like you are, and so there's a lot of agencies taking on really good diversity programs. But if it's just that, right, where we just get to talk to each other at the existing agency, but we're not making active change, you're right, then it's not going to really improve the situation. So that's a good point. So, wow. Where are you headed, Ray? What are your plans? I know you've been at NSF for a while. I'm not saying you're going to leave NSF. Nobody's saying that. Make sure that's out there. But
I know, right?
you in your career, you've been doing growth and doing different opportunities, and across giving back as well. Where are you headed in any of those spaces?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've certainly thought about, and probably still plan to do it, is at some point go to the senior executive services and whatever position, leadership position that I feel that is something that's good for me. But right now, though, to your point, I've only been at NSF for 11 months, and certainly been happy there with the leadership there, and they're certainly making sure that I'm prepared to go to the next level by putting me in other programs. So certainly when it's time for that bridge to be crossed, I'll be able to cross it. But I think SES is certainly on the plate, and also at some point, go into industry, test those waters as well. But yeah, definitely, I at least plan to be in my position for a little bit longer. But whatever role I actually take after this, I hope they just let me still travel, still have my bourbon, do those things that I enjoy as well. But definitely when that right position comes along, then I'll certainly entertain it. But right now I'm certainly happy at NSF.
Well, Ray, this has been a great conversation. I look forward to one day working for you. You get that SES position, I will absolutely come work for you. You're a great person, and you're great at inspiring others. So I'm looking forward to that. And thank you for coming on the podcast today.
Awesome. Thank you for just having me. I was just honored that you even asked me to do the interview. So I was like, yes, of course, bring me on. So appreciate it. I'm glad you allowed me to tell my story as well.